all your son wants is approval from the father. You're like, hey, I'm on the right track. Of course, there's more to it, but at the top level, if you boil it down in a sentence, they just want your approval, and your little girls just want you to lovingly, pursue them and show them what it is to be a man, so that when it's their turn to go out there in the world and find a man, they're like, oh no, that's not a man. My dad wasn't like.
You're a man living in the modern world in a time when men and manhood are not what they once were. You live life on your own terms. You're self-sufficient. You think for yourself, and you march to the beat of your own drum. When life knocks you down, you get back up, because in your gut, you know that's what men do. You're a badass and a warrior. And on the days when you forget, we are here to remind you who you really are.
Welcome to Sovereign Man Podcast, where we aim to make men masculine again. I'm your man, Nicky Ballou, and we got a very special guest here for you today, George Rivera. George, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Nicky. Excited to be here.
Excited to have you here. So, George, when you and I met, you told a group of people, and I was one of the people in that group, your personal story. And your personal story was so compelling that I decided I wanted to have a longer, deeper conversation with you on the podcast. So your story is very powerful because it's one that really a lot of men who pursue success and attain it go through some of the things that you went through. So why don't you start by telling us your personal story?
Yeah, for sure. So, man, there's a lot to it, but yeah, I'd say probably how I started that was, as a young kid, I was, growing up in middle school and high school, I played, basketball and baseball. And, like every young boy, every son wants his dad to be there at the games, because it's like, Dad, look at me. I'm becoming a man one day. Like, see your son perform, and I need your assurance and your approval. And I wasn't getting that from my dad. And one of the things that opened my eyes to that is, playing games and stuff, and my teammates and friends and peers are scoring baskets or kicking in goals, doing whatever on the competitively, and their dads were in the stands cheering them on. And when I would do that, I'd score or make a good pass, and I look at the empty stands. There's no dad cheering me on. I'd have gone to one out of, say, 40 games or so out of that whole span. So I remember looking at one of the other dads, while they were celebrating their son, and I remember thinking, I wish that was my dad. And that would have just completely crushed my father hearing that. And my dad was not, he's not a bad man. He wasn't doing this intentionally. There's like no guide or manual teaching people out there. And there's resources and stuff, and especially now in today's age, I think it's easier, and it's questionable what's good or what have you. But at the time, especially, talking, in the 90s, they're really, the internet was just in its infancy, and I don't recall too many people ever talking about this back then, as far as a topic. Nobody. So intentional or not, he wasn't doing it intentionally, but yeah, and it really it created like this big void inside of me. And he's a very successful medical doctor, had a great career, and the only way I could cope, and kids, you figure out how to cope. Nobody's again teaching you this stuff. It's like, hey, I'm loaning my dad to the world to make it a better place, and he was so good at his profession. But when I needed him most, he'd get us nice cars and homes and trips and all that, and whatever. It's fun when you do it, but when I needed him most, he wasn't there. And I realized that I was actually repeating in the footsteps of my father, because he was the example that I had. And so one of the ways that I look at it now with my own son is like, I'm training my replacement in this world by living the example that that as a dad I wish that I would have had. But yeah, so that was kind of the moment that made me crave, my father in my life, and I didn't have him back then.
Yeah, a lot of boys would have wanted their dads to show up for their ball games. Dr. Nito Kubain, who's the president of High Point University in North Carolina, and himself a multi-billionaire who founded or co-founded 5 Fortune 500 companies. Okay, so this guy's the real deal. Talks about that his dad wasn't there with him growing up, and the story he tells is, I wish that he could have been with me to throw me a ball, take me to a game, but he wasn't. And this is an accomplished, successful man, but even when he says that, you can feel the lament and the regret in his voice. And that really is what you experienced. So how is it that you went from experiencing this as a boy with your father to seeing that it was on the verge of happening with you, with your kids?
Yeah, well, and actually, it kind of did a little bit at first, and so to kind of finish that my childhood side of things, eventually, several years later, my parents split up because my dad was just never home, and the working hard for a living and for material things, sort of, the success came at a cost, losing his family, and so, like I said, I was kind of on the verge of repeating, and I did a little bit at first, and so we're talking about 10 years ago now here coming up. My father was on his deathbed. He entered 2015 in his 40th year of medical practice. We're going for it for maybe another decade or two, seemingly healthy, but then a couple months later diagnosed with terminal cancer. And now we've got 6 months to live. It's crazy. And knowing that there's an expiration date, kind of makes you appreciate, hey, we need to make the most of this time. So me and my dad spent a lot of time together making up for the previous 20 years. And one of the things that he told me on his deathbed, he basically told me, don't miss Leo's games. I miss too many of yours. And he said it word for word like that. Leo being my son, he was 10 months old at the time. And I was already blowing it. I was blowing, about family moments. And when he told me that, it did a couple of things. First, flashback to my childhood when he missed all these games. There was a sense of almost like he was asking for forgiveness, although that wasn't the phrasing there. And I had forgiven him because I became a hustler too. Talk to the early adult version of me working and hustling. I would have been high-fiving my dad. Hey, Dad, it's all good. I'm doing the same thing. You showed me how to work. This is how work goes. And so again, that's me repeating it. And when he told me that, there was a bit of a sweet, closure to that is all I could say, because that pain did not go to waste, and as a kid, I'm like, man, does my dad even care? And fast forward 20 plus years when he told me that, yes, he did. And whatever, can't go back and make up for that time. So he at least acknowledged that. And then next thing is like, holy cow, I'm repeating his steps. And again, this is 2015, and he agitated something in a loving way, agitated something in me that I knew I had to fix. But again, there's like no blueprint, roadmap, manual guide for this stuff. And so I'm like, okay, I'm still working 12, 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'll have to figure this out tomorrow because nobody else is going to do my work for me. And that kind of went on for another 3 years, essentially repeating in his footsteps. So, yeah, and that all kind of led to what I call the Rome call. So, I had a business mentor like a lot of people in business have, and he was in Europe with his family, and he was going to be returning the following week. But I reached the point where I was just completely burned out. I even and I don't say the word hate often. I feel like when you say these words too much, they lose their value. So when I say hate, I intentionally mean the word hate. And I told him, I hate this business. I'm doing things I shouldn't be doing. And I was like, but anyway, hit me back next week. And anyway, he saw that email and he called me from Rome. It's like almost midnight, it's afternoon in the US. And he's like, man, that email, I had to call you now. I couldn't wait till next week. And we spent the next hour talking about how to work me out of doing the things that I dislike. I might be good at them, but I dislike them. They suck my energy and they don't really move the needle. Whereas I focus best on copies, sales letters, conversion, marketing, media. That's where my genius is, and I should be spending all my time there. They don't both coexist very well if it's the same person doing it. It's a different kind of side of your brain, operations to marketing. And so he essentially lovingly walked me off the ledge and said, we need to get you sticking what you love to do. And then we need to find somebody who's doing operations, because they exist, and put them in that place. And at that time, I'd scaled my business to $20 million a year. It was printing money. I was providing my family a great lifestyle, if great is material success, but I was on the verge of losing my family like my dad did. I know how that story goes when the man works too hard and you're neglecting your family or not. You asked me at the time, hey, are you neglecting your family? I say, no, they got an awesome house. They got great cars and we go to Europe every summer. How am I neglecting them? And of course, I'm missing those very important moments at home. I wasn't there to witness my son taking his first steps. I should have been there. I'm never getting that time back. Or there's other times when I'm on a call and, my 2-year-old boy's, kind of pulling on my pants saying, hey, Dad, I want to show you something. And I'm like, give me like 2 minutes. I'll be right there. And I really mean it. And then an hour goes by, moments gone. And I try to tell, hey, what do you want to tell me? And, little boy's going to be like, oh, yeah, I don't know. Like 10 seconds, they're on to something else, And so moments miss forever. And so, that night that day / going into the evening, I'm like, no more, like, I can't take this anymore. And that's what led to that email, which eventually turned into what I call the Roam call. And then that's the foundation of sort of my kind of like the blueprint that I developed over time to really work myself out from being the bottleneck where everything depends on me to where I have like true freedom. My business continued to do well. In fact, it actually grew because I removed myself from doing the stuff that I completely did not like. And I was good at it, but I didn't like it, to doing the things that I like. And all my freedom at the same time, and going to all my son's games, all of his t-ball, wee-ball games, eventually his basketball games, and jiu-jitsu, and just present there without having to check messages or things on fire. I put a process in place to handle, emergencies and escalation situations where it didn't have to be me. Like earlier today, one of our merchant accounts was having issues, and I'm just like, man, the old days, and like, 911, like, who do I talk to fix? And now it's like, oh, they're getting notified and it's all being handled and it's not me doing it. So, it's awesome. And once you put one of these practices in a place to free you up from being the bottleneck, you can't undo that. Like, you get that little taste of freedom, you're never going back. You're going to want to customize your life around, family, and prioritize that, and kind of let the business work around your lifestyle instead of, you trying to like bend around the business, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
They say North Americans live to work, Europeans work to live. And I think there's a lot we can learn from Europeans in that regard, right? The average European takes 6 weeks off a year. Average North American takes 9 days off a year, man. I mean, it's it's crazy, man. 6 weeks off. This year so far, I've taken 5 weeks off, and I just planned for a 6th week coming up in November.
Nice.
And a 7th week in December for sure. I'm going for 8. I got to find another week off somewhere.
You're beating the Europeans. Nice.
Yeah, buddy. 8 weeks. I'm going for 8. But you were so moved by this, you decided that there's other men that are dealing with this. You needed to help them. So you wrote a book. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So kind of to kind of talk the transformation. So 2018, bottleneck, $20 million a year, wanted to walk away from my business. Fast forward 3 years, and it went 3 years because I had a little bit of trust issues implementing, the program and the very systems I was putting together, because there's an element of trust and making sure that it's all working. But I'd say the pinnacle of transformation happened in 2021. The business scaled up to just shy of $50 million that year, and I was working way less. I would have had a schedule that the Europeans would have been envious of, with all these weeks off, in some cases 2-3 weeks off without really even checking in. Sometimes I'd check in with them like, hey guys, are you okay? And they're like, yeah, everything's good. And I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, systems and things still happen, but somebody else is handling these situations. It's not me having to pick up the pieces like it used to be in the old days. And referencing the old days for a second, I had 40 people working for me. I'd always be hiring people and delegating, but issues still kept coming up to me. So by switching how I handled everything and implementing certain frameworks and systems and kind of super delegation, as I call it, I was able to essentially streamline the people that I had and establish department heads and everything just sort of worked beautifully there. And so it didn't depend on me. And over the years, so I'd say from 21 to 23, maybe a little bit into last year, I had like 7 or 8 different people tell me, you gotta teach people how to do this, what you're doing. Because, I get calls from friends and colleagues and, I'm like out somewhere in some other state and they go, hit me when you get back. We're all good. And I'm, no, let's talk now because this is my life. Like I'm traveling and I can, have a little bit of work blended in with lifestyle as long as it doesn't impact, where we're going or what we're doing. And they're like, oh my gosh, that's so awesome. I wish I could live like you and you need to teach people how to do this. But I didn't know how. It's like, okay, what's step one? I'm not a teacher. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm someone who's always, built businesses. I've never kind of hit the guru circuit, so to speak. And so
the guru circuit, I love it.
Yeah, kind of like teaching. And I know there's a lot of people out there, they teach and God bless them, they're awesome. Maybe they're doing some awesome things, but they haven't necessarily built any businesses or hired anybody. They're just good at talking concepts and stuff and sort of get success that way. And hey, no judgment. But I'm just saying I've been in the trenches doing this stuff, and I was lacking, framework and systems in terms of teaching and educating and writing. And yeah, I'd say the last 4 or 5 months, it sort of just came together that there's actual frameworks that you can implement to buy back your time. And the frameworks really apply to anybody wanting to buy back their time for anything in life. I just come from the father first perspective, the man first, the man's the head of the household. How do you want to destroy a society? You take the man down.
That's
It's not take the woman down. Women, we need them. God bless them. They're the other half of the equation. And, men do their thing, women do their thing, and together they work amazingly well. And when you have culture trying to confuse men that maybe they're women or, whatever, that's how you destroy the family, and that's how you destroy society. So,
Amen.
in a way, I'm sort of like, yeah, I love the business stuff and helping them there, but my passion really lies in helping men like become men again, find their true freedom, find their true purpose in life. Because, I've been there making money and stuff. Yeah, it's fun for a little while, but then it gets old. I remember receiving, 7-figure wire transfer. And had you told me, earlier in my life, one day you're going to get a 7-figure wire transfer, like, holy cow, that's when I know I'm going to make it. But you know how much fun that lasted? It was like 10 minutes. And then I'm like, I need an 8-figure wire transfer now. It's like, come on. And so, that I don't know if that helps put things in perspective, but yeah. And so I just want to make men realize that your family needs you, your business, sure they need your leadership, and they need you to put in a framework that can function without you, but your family needs you. They need you present because they're depending on you, and you have a legacy to share and give to your family. And I want to make sure men know that, and they're able to actually execute on that.
How long did it take you to write the book? And the name of the book is what? Buy Back Time Formula? Is that what it's called?
Correct. Yep. Buy Back Time Formula. Yeah, I'd say altogether, it was probably like a 3 or 4 month project. There's like some initial work, and then some time off, and then some more work, and then feedback, and I'd send a chapter to some friends and say, hey, what do you think about this? What can I do better? What can I communicate better? And so, yeah, it was several months. I mean, it's ended up being 128 pages of just very detailed and actionable content. I sprinkle in a little bit of, my story and my reason why of this specific method or what have you. But yeah, I mean, my goal with the book is people buy it and they implement it, and they literally don't need anything else. Sometimes there's books where you're like, oh, this is awesome, but step 2 means I got to go buy something else. And I get it. That's a great business model. And I have things, if people want more, they can inquire. But my goal is that, hey, this book helped unfree me from being the bottleneck to now I bought back my time to do whatever I want. And because my message is more towards men using my story, I know that a lot of men are gonna enjoy the benefits of the transformation of buying back their time, so they can be present for their sons and daughters. All your son wants is approval from the father. Hey, I'm on the right track. Of course, there's more to it, but at the top level, if you boil it down in a sentence, they just want your approval, and your little girls just want you to lovingly, pursue them and show them what it is to be a man, so that when it's their turn to go out there in the world and find a man, they're like, oh no, that's not a man. My dad wasn't like that. My dad, opened my door, told me that he loved me, and it was beautiful, told me that I was beautiful and captivating. You are looking for other things, so you can see the red flags come up. And so we need to get men back being, the influence on their family, so that, changing hearts and families one at a time, I guess you could say.
I got to tell you, your story's powerful because you went through something that was an epiphany for you. It woke you up, and you fixed your own life. And because you did such a good job, other men sought you out. And they say that a man really is a man that is respected by his woman when she knows that other men seek him out for his expertise in a particular area. So you did that. And I bet you that was something powerful as far as your lady was concerned. And I bet you it was powerful for you as well to be sought out for men to share this with them. And as a result of that, you decided that in addition to running your multi-million-dollar business, you wanted to help men by working with some of them one-on-one who are really stuck in the grip of this, I don't know what to call it, but this vicious cycle, right? So talk a bit about that. Talk about why you're doing that and what you're hoping to do for those men that may be on the verge of losing their darn family if they don't wake up and smarten up.
No, they truly are like I was. Again, I know how that story ends if you keep going down that path. And I've seen it so many times, and I saw it with my own family. But yeah, so I guess from a personal perspective, I've been online since 1995. I've sold up various different things. I'd say close to $500 million of products sold. So I've been around for a while, selling all kinds of things from supplements to information products. I've sold cars on eBay. I've had consulting agencies and helped other businesses sort of launch their companies or what have you, and nothing ever really fulfilled. I mean, yes, it was fun making money and the cool perks that can have. It gets old, but at least initially, once you're experiencing it, it's kind of fun. But then kind of your purpose sort of seems to wane a little bit, and you're like, okay, well, I want something that's fulfilling, and I kind of landed on this because first I was getting men sort of asking me hey, you need to share this with the world, like you've got something here. So that was the validation. But then I'd started giving just friendly advice to my friends and peers, and just having them tell me, hey man, I implemented that thing and bought back some time. I don't know if they use that exact phrase, but they're like, hey, now I'm able to go to my son's game, or you know what, you told me that there are three most important times in a day that you can make an impact on your child, which is in the morning when they get back home from school, or in the evening. And I had no idea about that. I was blowing all of them, and just of course I can't like radically change my schedule overnight, but knowing that, now I'm conscious about going to say goodnight to my boy before he goes to bed, and that's like brought them closer. So just little things. My goal is to kind of make incremental baby steps, but like I always say, even about implementing the methods or getting closer with your family, just get a small taste of it, and you're going to want more, and but you got to start somewhere. And so yeah, my satisfaction now comes from just hearing other people say, yeah, whatever, business, whatever. But like on the family side now, I'm talking to my wife again, or I'm present for my son's games. Like getting those texts to me, those messages mean more to me than say those 7-figure wire transfers. So like that to me will last longer in the satisfaction department than that. And so I feel like it's God's purpose of putting me on this planet to carry out that mission. And so for me, it when, sometimes, every man goes through like, oh, am I doing the right thing? Am I in the right place I should be? And then having those messages and that validation that I'm in the right place just take me to another level. And so yeah, my goal is to help bring families together, help men be the men that God made them to be, as well as seek their own purpose in life. Because once you buy back your time, your presence for your family, then I know they're gonna be thinking, what's next? And so like I'll be here to help usher you into what I found to be the what's next for me. And really for me, it's just passing it on and having it be a generational impact, because a present father in the home giving his impact to his family, that's a generational thing, because it's likely that son and daughter will continue that. But speaking more to sons as the future men of their household, to have that impact family, and then the daughters will pick better men those men will lead their families. And so yeah, I'm just excited to get this out to more people.
Well, here's what I want to say, right? The average cost of a divorce in the United States, the average cost is $110,000. If you're a multimillionaire business owner, the cost of a divorce to you is minimum $5 million. $5 million. So if you're a multimillionaire business owner, you're going to lose at least $5 million if you go and get divorced. And if you're on this path that you, George, are talking about, then you, the multimillionaire business owner, are very likely set up to lose a minimum of $5 million. Now, if your net worth's higher, it could be 10 million, 20 million, 50 million, 100 million. That's just the dollars and cents of what it'll cost you to go through a divorce. Now, the other costs are your children are going to start off by being members of a broken home, way more likely to go to jail, to get someone pregnant or become pregnant themselves, to abuse drugs, and to frankly hurt themselves or get killed. And those statistics are horrific. If we had them down here, they're not in front of me. I have them somewhere on my computer files, but they're anywhere between an extra 120 to 1,300% chance of these negative life incidents happening in your children's lives. So if you're a father and a husband, you sure as hell don't want to lose $5 million to $500 million of your money. And you sure as hell don't want to see your kids with an exponentially higher chance of having a negative, horrible life event happening to them because you were too busy to figure out that the path you're on is crushing your family. There's got to be a way for you to be able to be successful and still make your son's ball games and your daughter's recitals. And that really is what you're talking about, right, George?
Absolutely. Yeah. This is about getting you back in with your family. Because like one of the things, and having been through there with a dying father on his deathbed, nobody has ever said, "Oh, I'm so glad I blew off my son's game for that client call or for that, client dinner, insert business excuse." Or "I'm so glad I blew off my daughter's recital for insert business excuse." Nobody's ever said that. All they want at the end of their life is that someone that they love and we're all might have regrets at the end of our lives. That's naturally how life goes. But the goal is to minimize those regrets. And once you're aware that there's another option, you have no excuse. I get it. Like some of these, some of our brothers out there, fellow men, they have damage and wounds that are leading them, down the path that they're going, where work is my identity. This is what I do. It's because I learned it from my dad, or they didn't have a dad, so they think this is how a dad is. They provide for their family, give them nice homes, cars, trips, toys, whatever it is that they want. But if you aren't there for the moments that matter, I'm telling you, it's going to leave a deeper wound. So I'd say that's the biggest lie, and it might be a lie from culture or from your past, is that by buying them things, you are being a good provider. If you make lots of money and you're able to buy good stuff, good for you, but you're missing a huge part of what you're supposed to be as a father if you're not present for them. Actually, the most important part.
Amen. George, thank you for giving enough of a damn to write the book and to start working with folks one-on-one who are caught in the grip of this. Because I think I'm going to entitle the episode, "Don't Miss Leo's Games. I Missed Too Many of Yours."
That's it.
And that really is what a man listening to this should take away for himself.
Exactly. Yeah, that's my dad's whole life in that one sentence right there.
Amen, man. George, thank you so much for coming and
thank you, Nikki. Appreciate it.
And sharing your story.
Hey, anytime. All right.
And that's a wrap.
Thank you for listening to the Sovereign Man Podcast. If you're ready to take charge of your life and become the man you've always wanted to be, we invite you to join the movement at sovereignman.ca.